Ron, welcome to the Retail Whore Podcast.
Hey.
I'm so excited that you're here. I had the pleasure of meeting. I met you in passing several times, but I had the pleasure of working with you at Matt's showroom, the new Fine Lines rollout. And to say that you're talented is like an understatement, but it's so great to be able to have you here.
Oh, thank you. That's so kind. So kind.
You're welcome. You are also an ex-anthro person, which I loved when I heard that.
Yeah. Yes, I was part of that world for I think, God, was it 8 or 9 years? I was now in it for a while.
Was it like 7? So tell everyone a little bit about yourself and your brand and kind of what you're doing right now, and then we're going to get into it.
Okay, well, I've been in retail like my whole career, my whole life. But I was going to university. I was an actor. I was studying theater, and I was doing set design and costume, and I wasn't really doing the acting thing that much. I had done some acting before, but going to school in Montana, there's not a lot of people of color there.
Oh my God.
Yeah, right. Like, hi. And so there were a few roles that came up for a Black character, and I was approached, and it's like, hey, Rod, I know you're in the costume department.
What characters were those?
Well, it was. Gosh, I can't even remember. I think it was the first show. I had to go back and think about it. But I think I played Butler or something. And I said, I'll do this. And they really liked me. And then so all of a sudden, like all these roles started coming my way. And I was at a point where I could turn them down. I wasn't really auditioning because, I'm like, it calls for a minority character. I'm a minority in the department. So everyone knew me. And they knew my work. So all of a sudden, I was acting more than I was designing, which was fun. I had a great time. And then I started doing some independent acting on the side and summer projects. But after university, I was actually hired to do To Kill a Mockingbird, my first professional job. And I toured around the country for 3 months.
Wow.
And it was just a great experience with all these talented people. And I thought that was my path. I thought, you are an actor. That's what you're going to do. And then I went back to Montana just for a bit. And then I decided, well, I'm going to move to New York or San Francisco. Well, my grandma got really sick, and I decided that I didn't want to be that far from my family in Utah. So I thought, well, I have friends in Seattle. Well, I'll just go stay in Seattle for a while and just be close. Well, that Seattle turned into a very long time. And there were a total of 10 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like, oh, that was a while. But yeah, so I remember, and I had a few modeling jobs in Seattle, a few acting jobs, but it just wasn't paying the rent. It wasn't paying my bills, and I just started freaking out. A friend of mine said to me, I know Eddie Bauer is hiring. I said, oh, okay. And in Seattle, that was their hub. That's their main base. So I'm like, okay. So I applied for a job, and I was the greeter for like a month. Like, welcome to Eddie Bauer, man. Welcome to Eddie Bauer. I just had to pay my rent. That's all I knew, girl. And I remember noticing this woman off to the side. She was merchandising. And I'm like, oh, what's she doing? I approached her. I was like, hi, I'm Ron. I'm new here. But I noticed that you're doing some display work. I mean, how did you get into this? I just totally inquiring about it. I said, oh, I'm the visual manager here. I said, I love what you're doing. This is awesome. I said, if you ever need any help, I'm here. I can help you out. Right. And a few months went by, and I'd help out with little floor moves and things like that. And then she taught me some skills. I'm like, oh, I can do this. I'm an artist. And then about another few months went by, and she decided that she was going to go on a mission with her husband. Oh. And the job was up for grabs. I had to apply, go through the interview process. And so they gave me a temporary trial. And they were very pleased with my work and my leadership. And all of a sudden, they're like, okay, well, you'll be the visual lead. And so then that morphed into visual manager. And then all of a sudden that morphed into opening stores for Eddie Bauer Home.
Wow.
And then it went to me going to corporate office and designing floor plans for the home division for Eddie Bauer Home.
I had no idea about this part. This is fantastic.
Right? It's awesome. So it's like, oh, this is awesome. I love this. But there was a director at Eddie Bauer home at the corporate office. She was kind of like my mentor because, she was really hard on me, but she taught me a lot. And I remember when I decided that I was going to leave because they were cutting back and people were losing their jobs. And I thought maybe I should try to find something before I get cut because people were getting cut left and right, and I was one of the last people to get hired. I'm like, oh no, they're going to keep me. So I ended up going to Nordstrom, doing displays for Nordstrom for like a year. And her name was Nancy Wall. Hi, Nancy. I was dressing some mannequins, and I hear this Ron Carter, and I turn around like, hi, Nancy, how are you? She's like, good, how are you? She's like, good, I'm with anthropology now. I'm like, oh, great. She's like, you should come see me. I'm like, okay, but I was really happy with my job. I was dressing
way, by the way, to get employees is to go and shop other stores and, see the people doing the job and seeing how they're doing it. That's the best way to find an employee. Let alone know them.
Exactly. So I went in for the interview, and she liked what I had to say. And she's like, well, we have an opening in Detroit.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, I'm not moving to Detroit. She's like, well, why not? I said, it's Detroit. And she's like, I said, I'm not against Detroit, but I just think that's my vibe. She said, Detroit's really changing, Ron. I said, okay, well, I think I'm going to stay here. So I declined that job. I said, well, I don't want to. Sorry, I'm good. Then I ended up interviewing again, and they interviewed me for the University Village store. And I had to go through. Remember Brendan?
Yes, I love Brendan.
He interviewed me, and I was like, okay. And then several interviews.
Dude, I mean, we're going to talk about the interview process here.
It was intense. It was so intense. And then they gave me the job, and really the rest is history. I mean, I worked for that company for I think 8 years, but I then moved from the University Village store to the flagship in Seattle, the big store. It was one of the biggest stores in the company.
Yeah.
And they were a little kind of weird about giving it to me because it was, at that time, it was I think a $5 million store.
Wow.
And they didn't know if they wanted to give that to me because I was still kind of green, but I performed quite well. I did really well with it.
When I interviewed Kristen, who headed up all the visuals, she was on the ground floor of the reason why Anthro looked the way it did, the wall treatments, her, Glenn Sank, Glenn's partner.
Yes.
She found me in Z Gallery, and then she recruited me. So I had 2 interviews. I got skipped over. I have heard the folklore of the stories of interviewing, when you get put, you have to do a project and then the interview. And it's if I had to do a project, I wouldn't have gotten hired because I'm creative. I'm not the display coordinators are the ones who do all those amazing installations. Exactly. I could never do that. I would have never gotten hired, but I've heard the folklore of what was the hiring process for you?
Well, I remember the project, and I remember doing this. I did a project too.
What was it?
It was basically it was vintage jewelry with I think I had a collage of things, and Nancy liked it, but she said it just really wasn't the vibe. So they didn't love it. So that's how hired me.
I was like, am I supposed to make a diorama? What the fuck?
What? Yeah.
But I have heard the folklore of those interviews, and I was very lucky. And I walked into the second highest volume store because Rock Center was the number 1 and Third Street Promenade was the number 2. And I waltzed in there la la la. I don't even know. My learning curve was hard, but it's that's where my favorite thing and what I took the most away from Anthro was both your reporting and understanding, reading your reports and how it has actually to do with your floor set, even all the way down to this item's not showing up on your sales report, which means it's either in your back room or it's hidden somewhere, which we used to hide that fish hook, which everyone listens to this podcast. Do you remember that wall decor? The little wire fish with the fucking beads? I hated that thing and I hid it. And I finally got called out for it. And then it was like, okay, I'm going to make this look, we talked about this in Vegas. I'm going to make this thing look so damn good. It's going to be on every single fucking sales report. And it's going to be the number one t-shirt. But that lesson of how reporting, how much it dictates how your floor set, what's selling, what's not, like your floor pattern, as well as, now I've already forgotten tabletops. Tabletops are my tabletops. Like that's where I really finesse like the tabletop thing.
I love it. Yeah, I love it.
My jam. What are your takeaways from your time there?
I would say, well, kind of piggybacking off what you were saying, the whole report thing, because I came from a world where I just make things beautiful. Mm-hmm. And that's all I knew. And then also I had to apply a report to the merchandising. What are you talking about? And so it took me a long time to wrap my head around that. But then I started seeing like, oh, okay, I get this. And I think also the conference calls once a week, and really just kind of partnering with other district managers and visual managers and trying to, that really helped me as a merchandiser understand my floor plans. Yeah. And I've applied that to other retail jobs I've had after Anthro, because, it's like, how much money is this making us? I'm like, we've been sitting on this for 3 weeks and we've not moved any of this. So they really taught me a lot of important tools in my professional life now.
It is the best education.
Best education that you could, if you're going to work retail, Anthro was an amazing place to learn like the nuts and bolts. Yeah. I remember back at Eddie Bauer home, or Eddie Bauer in general, the store, I was doing some merchandising. It was beautiful, but the numbers were down. And I remember the store manager, I'm just like, Ron, this is really beautiful. This is beautiful. I need to put a rolling around the fleece out here because we need to make some money. And I was like, oh, please, no, stop the fleece. A few lessons, and I'm just like, I've always just applied that to even now when I'm working with the porch. It's just like, this movie, are we making money? Are we, how's this doing? What's the stock room? What are our levels back there? And actually, I've incorporated walkthroughs at porch through Anthro. Because it's the best way to get everyone on board to see like what's moving, what's not moving, and how not just the people who are merchandising and styling, but how the salespeople, how we all can impact the business.
Yep. How long after you left Anthro did you, because Porch is one of for those of you who are listening, Porch is in this magical place called Summerlin, which is in between Los Angeles or Malibu and Santa Barbara. It is known for some of the most amazing home decor stores now. I think Big Daddy's wife's store is there, which is, what's the store?
The Well.
The Well. Like some of the most incredible home decor stores are on this strip of land along the coast in California. Tell us a little bit about how you came to Porch.
Well, I moved to California with my ex-partner, and I transferred with anthropology, and I ended up working in the Thousand Oaks store for like a year. And then I know. And then I ended up going back to Santa Barbara, working there. I just realized it was a different vibe for me. And I just thought, I'm not really happy anymore. I really want to do something. I want to be challenged more. I wasn't challenged. I feel like Seattle, a lot of those people that I worked with, we kind of grew together. And I was thrown into a different group of people, a different team, and the mesh didn't really work that great. So I thought I was going to leave. And I didn't work for like 8 months.
What?
And I took 8 months off and realized,
wow.
Well, it was a needed break. I worked my butt off. I worked a lot. So, but then I started missing it. I started missing work and just being busy. And so I knew Diana. I could I shop at her store, and I remember talking to her, speaking to her, and saying, "Hey, you have a project for me? Something I can help you with?" And she's like, "Sure, I can do something." So I ended up helping her out with events, because she has an event business as well. And so I was designing some things for her with that. And then she needed someone to help style the store. And so then I was just going in a couple of days a week. just helping out. And then it just kind of blossomed from there. And I've been with her. Someone came in the store the other day and I said, "You've been in Porch for a long time." I said, 10 years.
I love it. When I talked to Diana, you were moving to Portugal, and I was introduced to her by Jill, her rep from Stephen Young. And I talked to her. We never met because we went back and forth on email because she turned out you had introduced somebody to her that was working out fantastically. But I just love her philosophy on working and partnering with people and creating. It's not one of those micromanaging owners. Like she wants to be involved in it. And she also gives you the freedom to do what you do best, which I think is like the best combination of a business owner working with somebody that's freelance for visuals.
It's been a great marriage between the two of us. I mean, because, the fact that I do live in Portugal part-time, but I go back and forth. And Diane and I have this whole thing where she's like, "I don't care what you do, just don't leave me."
Of that. A huge
compliment. I do travel quite a bit, but I also, when I go back to the store, it's just like, I'm always excited because my traveling, I think, helps the business because I see things in a different light. Because when I'm shopping, I'm always looking at how this store's laid out, how those windows are done, how this is done. And I try to apply all those experiences and bring them back with me.
Tell me a little bit about how you talked a little bit about how you've incorporated walkthroughs for retail. Tell me a little bit about what your process is when you go into stores or if you're working with the new, because working in showrooms, I just got off the phone. I had another call with another merchandiser and we had talked about where, you're merchandising wholesale showrooms and retailers. It's very different. Like wholesale,
very different.
One of these, and you can't cross merchandise it with the cool line that's over here. And
exactly
kind of have so talk to us a little bit about what your process is.
Well, when, you're working in a showroom, you're really trying to throw out the newest and latest, inventory that they have and things they're really invested in. And so you have to put a different hat on and you're like, okay, I want to make this look like this, but it's not the narrative that they want because you're hearing all the notes and everything that you received from the vendor, like, okay, well, they want this. And so I really try to just keep that showroom hat on. But then when I go to the store, it's a different hat because, like you said, cross merchandising. When I'm in my store, I try to create a story. I try to tell you a story. And so there is going to be cross merchandising, and Portia has two stories, so sometimes, we have customers who don't realize we have an upstairs. So what I've done, I started cross merchandising, you'll have it in two different areas to capture those people who don't go upstairs. You know what I mean? So they are two very different hats. So I think with almost with showroom, it's almost like an analytical way of thinking. And I think with the store, it's more creative.
Yeah.
But also with that said, I'm looking at how much money is this going to make us?
Yeah.
Whereas at the showroom, I want to create this narrative that the company wants so they can have their clients say, "Oh, I need 100 a day."
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I wanted exactly the way this is.
Exactly.
Tell me a little bit about, because you, for everyone, so everyone can reference this, for those of you who went to Las Vegas, Ron did in Fine Lines, the Patty Wax, Gentleman's Hardware, that whole design, is it Design Inc.? What's the other?
Design Working.
Design Working. That was all of Ron's section. And to watch you go through the process, it was funny because it was very much how I do it. When I attack it, it's taking, for me, it's very much a puzzle. It's taking everything out, grouping it, for wholesale, it's grouping it by the groups, the sizes, the colors, whatever that go in this group. And then setting your floor and watching you set the floor and all the layers that you work with and all the architecture. It was so cool to watch it from the outside because that's what I've done my whole career. So great to watch somebody else do that. And you're watching you walk through the floor plan and like I said, the layers that you were working with and the tables, when you're doing retail, do you have that same puzzle where, because I'll I'll offload one whole section and then kind of like group things together if I'm going to reimagine it and totally change. What is your process? Like I guess I should back up. How often do you, when you go into stores, say Porch, how often do you do like the big flips and how often do you change out like the focal areas?
I think big flips really happen quarterly, just based on the season. Right now we're in a planning process to get ready for fall/holiday. So, a lot of things are going to change, but also things are based off of a piece of furniture is sold, like someone wants to buy a table.
Yeah.
They buy the table, it's going to change the whole room.
Yep.
So it's like, okay, so we have a floor move happening tomorrow, like get the knockdown tables, put everything on there because everything's moving. So that happens quite frequently. But I try to keep things fresh at least every couple of weeks. I try to like really give it a new face because I have a belief that when you have core customers who shop at your store frequently, they're going to see that if you keep the same thing up all the time, they're not going to be inspired anymore.
Oh my God, I'm throwing my hands in the air for those of you who aren't watching because it's, oh my God, like so much. The reason why I wanted you so bad on this podcast is like so much of what I talk about to my retailers is storytelling and reinventing the same item and making sure that your focal part, the thing that you first walk in that store, that impact statement, changes enough because your customers are walking by the front door. And if they see the same thing, chances are they're probably not going to go in. Doesn't look like anything's new. Like that focal space is what literally sells somebody from coming in that may not come in and have
exactly
how that is.
Well, I always say like the entrance of the store sets the tone for the journey you're about to have.
Oh, I love that journey. It's amazing.
It's true. It's like, it's a journey, it's like, and Diana loves the comment that I always say, oh, we're creating a moment. And a moment here, a moment here. I said, because you want the customer, you want the client to be excited about this one moment. And then if they peek over I'm like, oh my gosh, there's another moment over there. Yeah. And that's what I get excited about because I try to create moments.
That's how I like to feed people through a store. And I don't know about you because I talk about this a lot. As part of Anthro, the brilliant part of how Anthro merchandises is they take you from public to private. So the very, very most public place, which is usually your front yard, is usually the front section. It's outdoor entertaining when it's summertime. In the winter, I think it's the holiday shop, but and then it goes all the way up to the very last point of the store, which is the fitting rooms and the bedding and the intimates and whatnot. Do you still carry that same philosophy, or do you kind of mix it up like a bedroom down below, or how do you when you're doing your floor plan?
Well, you've been to the store, right? So you see it's kind of a house.
Yeah.
So it already lends itself to that environment. So and the one thing that we miss about Porch is that we had in our old space, we had a very large garden. Oh. So and now we don't have that. So we have this massive porch now. So that's kind of a scaled back version of what we had at the old Porch. So that kind of sets the tone. Like, here's your outside, and then you walk in, you're walking into a living room space, and a living space. So that front room is always going to have a sofa, chairs. It's going to be your living room.
So and then at the actual porch, starting because I think you did the display when I was there last fall, and it was, I think, big nests.
Yes.
So your experience starts before you even get into the store.
Before you get in the store, yes. That's just, because I think you really, I think back in Anthro days, and I remember we would do windows, and I remember taking the team across the street. And I was like, okay, we want to capture the person across the street. So whatever we do has to have a major impact, has to be really beautiful, really inspirational. And so I think with Porch, we were trying to create that whole vibe. It's like, we have more competition now. So how we have set ourselves different from the Well or from, Big Daddy's or, Botanic, how we're going to set ourselves apart. Yeah. And so we really wanted to utilize the exterior and create those nests and those moments, those organic moments to kind of bring the people in. And then we carried that story throughout the store as well.
I took a picture of, I think he was on the landing, and it was a big vessel. And then it was a tree with the root ball that was pulled up and out of it. It was suspended above. stuff like that, like those installation moments. That reminds me, like when I did Anthro opening in San Francisco, John Meyer, who was the head of visual coordinators at that point, he now has a brand called Wary Myers, which is fucking brilliant. This line of soap and stuff. It's very John Myers. He thinks so outside the box. But the statement because San Francisco was, I think you walked into the third floor and then you went down to the second and the third. And you could stand above the railings and look down onto the other two floors. And he took a giant dollhouse, and he took a tree and had the tree and the dollhouse were suspended. So it was very Wizard of Oz, where the whole roof came down through the middle of this corridor as you're looking down. That's totally what that reminded me. But like those installation moments, not that every retailer can do it, but some small installation, like those moments may seem like, God, this is taking so long, or why is this so expensive? Those moments though are what create that brand's aesthetic, and Porch.
Oh, for sure.
Exactly why that brand feels like that. It's like experiential.
Diana's such an artist herself, so it's nice to have that energy. So when I present ideas to her, she always has, an opinion, but she also has a great eye. So I always take everything she has and I kind of digest it and try to create. Because back in the early years when she first started working with me, she didn't know my skill set so well. So she kind of would hold my hand. Now she's like, just do it. Just create it.
I love that.
So, but you have to have trust though in a person, because that's her background. So she used to do displays and all that.
I talked a lot about, when I came back, I had a show recap, and part of it was talking about what a great experience this last show setup was. I was able to jump around and I did Stephen Young for 3 days. I was with Matt for 9, sales producers for 2, my little art trading for 2 days. And, to be able to kind of bounce around is so fantastic creative wise. Mm-hmm. It was, to be able to do an installation here and then just a different type of merchandising there. But it was, now I'm totally lost where I'm going with this.
Oh, good. It's all good.
Old. Wow. I literally, I could see it going out the window and I'm like,
come back.
Anyway, I don't even know.
It's all good.
But so I came back with a show recap, and I was talking about what a great experience it was, because a lot of people, and you'll hear this over and over in the podcast, is that a lot of people bring on a merchandiser. You want a merchandiser. You've asked them to be there because you're missing something. Yeah. But then you try and micromanage it. There's parameters you always want to give your merchandiser. For sure. We need boundaries as well. But over and above that, the micromanaging part, it's you have to trust us, and you have to trust, we have your store's best interest. We want,
for sure.
All of us are people pleasers. And we want nothing more than you to be super excited and your customers to be super excited.
Yes, exactly.
Do you find when you come on to new clients, do you find it challenging? How do you how do you handle if you are micromanaged?
Well, now, because I somewhat have transitioned into doing interiors now. So, I have 3 clients right now, and I just sent a proposal for another client. So I went to hear back from them. So that has been a bit of a new experience for me. I'm not doing as much retail. I mean, I'm still doing Porch, and I'll help out at fine lines when they need me. But this interior world is very, very different because, these clients, they're trusting you to decorate their beautiful homes, and they spend a lot of money on these remodels. And so it's a very different hat now. But going back to, with Diana and Porch, like I said, she held my hand in the beginning, but like I said, I'm not really working with anybody else right now because it's just, I think with the interiors and Porch, I can only do so much. I had to limit, I really just kind of limit myself.
Just smart.
Because it's because I'm a people, I do want to please people. Yeah. That's in my DNA. Yeah. So, but you have to know when they win, because I think if you say yes to too many vendors, you're going to, set yourself so thin, stretch yourself so thin, then the work's not going to be that good because you're rushing trying to please everyone. I realized that this happened to me a few years ago. I was working with 4 different people, and people were starting to suffer because Diana wasn't getting what she needed, the other client wasn't getting what they needed, and I just realized you're just not capable of doing all that. And it's okay to say no.
That's really, I love that you just said that because it's true. I think that people don't realize when you're not in just one place every day and you are moving from space to space, like, you have to be done at the end of the day. Whether that end of the day took you 5 hours or it took you 14, you have to be done because you're somewhere else tomorrow. And it's not like you can come back and I'll just finish that tomorrow. And, it is very grueling. And if you have too much on your plate, also creatively, I think I can do 4 showrooms, and I think that's my max because I just creatively and like trying to think outside the box and keep everybody feeling completely different in their own style of merchandising. I don't know how you could add to that with still being able to A, have a balance, work-life balance, B, have just a life, and B, like to be able to really give each client what they need 100%.
Well, I think that's a learned thing because I think, as when you're younger, you think you can do it all.
Yeah.
And now that, 50 something, I'm like, okay, maybe I can't do it all, and that's okay.
I love that because I just now, my decision to kind of pull back has been, I really want to work with people that will really utilize all parts of me that I've spent 40 plus years in the industry with, the buying, the merchandising, the floor planning, like all of it, as opposed to like, I used to be very much the people pleaser where someone's like, hey, can you come in and just do this table display for me? And sure. And it was like, it didn't matter if it took me an hour and a half to get there. It only took me 2 hours to do, and then an hour and a half to that's the kind of stuff that I really started to say, put to the side, and like, I'd love to help you out. But the people pleaser in me so badly wants to say yes. And thank you so much for referring me, whoever it was. But I just realized it's not cost effective. And it's also,
It's just not. Your time is so valuable, and you have to realize that. It took a long time to get to this point in my life. You go, okay, not to say no to this project,
We'll do that to you like that. And that's part of the blessing about being this age is that you're able to say, you know what, like I would love to, but I've got, and I think you probably get a whole lot more respect and love from people when you do that because you're giving them basically more time to do what you do best for them.
Oh, for sure. I have a client I'm meeting with next week, and we haven't signed off on anything, but I said to her yesterday in my meeting with her, I said, let's do a walkthrough of your home and let's see if we're a good fit.
You're interviewing her.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's like, I just don't want to waste my time and I don't want to waste her time.
Yeah.
So it's just like, and she seems like a lovely person, but let's just see how this works, if this works out. And that's my new dialogue. It's like, let's see if we're a good fit.
That's really smart. I love because I'll be honest. I tried my hand at interiors and I did quite a few places, but I hate it. I'm not going to lie. I think because, it's very different designing a retail space that people are in and out of, in and out, and change. It's all about change. And when you are designing someone's home, they are living in it. That is
exactly.
It's not like you can go, so it doesn't fit perfectly. It's gonna be different next month.
Yeah.
I couldn't handle that. It was too. I'm not an interior designer. I'm a merchandiser, but I loved it when I was doing it, and then I didn't love it.
Well, I'm in the love it portion of it right now, but like I said, I have a few clients that not challenging, but it's just like we can't seem to, they're always traveling. I'm always traveling, so I feel like this project's gonna go over the next 2 years. It's like, it's just like I found some chairs for you, and I'll send them information, and then they're like, oh, sorry, we're in Paris or we're in Berlin. And so it's just like, that's the only challenge I've had, like the time frame. But my other client she called me the other day and she's like, I love what you've done with my daughter's bedroom, but can we revisit it again? And I'm like, sure, let's revisit.
How long to that room?
How long to take me to the room? Well,
And how long has she had it now?
Well, the house has been remodeled for like a little over a year. And basically I'm going in and just styling it and bringing in new like materials. And I worked to that bedroom probably maybe for 3 days.
Okay.
And then I went away, and then I got a message from her saying she loved it, but there's some things which are not working. So I'm going to go back and revisit it and kind of do another walkthrough and see what we can do to make the client happy.
I love, like, at what point have you come across, this may be too much of a question, have you come across a problem where it's like, okay, this is too much. We've revisited this like 6 times. You aren't, because there's going to be customers that obviously are never happy. And it's like, no, like, have you come into that yet? And like, how do you handle that?
I will say something to them. I always revisit our notes and our like vision boards. And I try to reel them in a little bit to say, hey, this is what we discussed in the beginning. So my whole thing is like, we're going to do an installation. I want you to live with it for a couple of weeks. And if you strongly feel that it's not working for you, we'll get rid of it. We'll take it away. And that always seems to work for me. I mean, I would say my one client, I would say she kept about 80% of the accessories I bought to her home.
That's good. Yeah, I like that, because I'll say that too with stores, that they're new and they're not sure, and they, because retailers get very used to, we've had it like this, it sells here, it's it's like, okay, but you the whole idea is to change and evolve and keep everything fresh and reinvent. You may have had this candle line forever, but let's reinvent it and make it look different and fresh, and new people will see it. And there are times where you could see, it's like they don't say anything, and I could see the look, and it's like, live with it for a couple weeks, both the floor plan and watch how people are navigating through the store, and live with it and see the reaction of your customers.
Oh,
and
for sure.
See how, and it's 9 times out of 10, I'll get a call back like, oh my God, I take it back. I love it. I got, watching the customers interact with it. We're selling so much, but it's that's a good rule of thumb of like, live with it. And then.
Well, yeah, live with it, because, of course, I'd say we're pretty good about, we're busy, we're doing really well. So I'll go in on Monday and I'll do my little walkthrough, and I'm like, okay, this will down. And there are a few things that Diana's like over, but it's still making us money. So it's like, I know I'm over it too, but people seem to love it, because, it's like living in your house. Like, you'll see something and you walk by it every day because you don't see it anymore, right? I think that happens in retail space. You can become numb to your own space.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, we need to change that, so.
What do you do? You just brought up a good question. What do you do? Because, all the stores, like if you don't have a very good reorder process, or you're not sure, like inevitably every store has 1 or 2 fucking things floating around. And for whatever reason, no one wants to put them on sale. How do you handle the 1 or 2 random items that float around over and over again?
I put them on sale. I got to the point. Even yesterday, there was one like oven mitt, just one. I said, put this in the sale section. I said, we're done. We're done with this.
What'd you get on sale? I want to hear that.
Well, there was a sale. Like, I think after, when you buy something and it arrives at your store, it loses, I can't remember this verbatim, but after 3 months, you start to lose the value of it. And then after 6 months, you lose less value. And after 9 months, it's like gone.
Yeah.
So unless you revisit it and re-merchandise it or rethink it. But there's certain items that I'm going, okay, you know what? We bought 100 of these, and we've only sold 15. So what does that mean? That means it needs to go bye-bye. So, and I think we've done in the past, I think in the old philosophy, of course, we would hold on to things forever. You just hold on to them. And now it's just like, let's just get rid of it. It's not moving.
Yeah.
And, as assistant buyer to Diana, it's like, sometimes you make a buy that doesn't perform, you're like, oh, that works. So you got to get rid of it. And it's unfortunate. So it happens. It happens to the best of us. I mean, you're like, oh my God, I loved it, but no one else did.
Yeah. I mean, well, I've said this in the past is that, like, because with Burt's Pharmacy, I was the apparel and the gift, and we created like a men's department, a women's department, kids. And your job as a buyer is to take some risks and to try new things and, price point or item. And, the apparel one year, like leopard was fucking everywhere. Animal print
everywhere.
Every single person at Magic and every single booth. And it was like, I went into the show like, oh, I don't know. And you leave the show like, I fucking love the animal print. And then, guess what? No one in Newbury Park liked animal prints. And it was like, that one hurt because everyone at the store continued to remind me about how much animal prints we had. It was like, but as I said to everybody, and I say to the buyer now, it's like, because she's very conservative. I said, you need to take some risks. You need to, as a buyer, it's the only way you're going to grow. It's also the only way you're going to be able to see what you can sell. Or, then you do it and it doesn't do well, you throw it on sale and but it's like, you'll never know unless you try.
Well, my question for you is like, how do you deal with like trend? Like, you have a DNA of your space, your company, but there's like a huge color trend or there's a huge accessory trend, so whatever. How do you apply that so you stay current, stay relevant, but also stay true to yourself? So for Burt's, the first rule is know who your customer is. And I obviously didn't know Newbury Park or anti-animal prints, but know your customer base is. And for us, it's like the philosophy with the pharmacy is $40 is a magic price point, and everything you have to be able to try on without a fitting room. So t-shirts, dresses and the last show, last January's magic show, Hot Pink was like, and this is before Barbie movie was out. Hot Pink was like everywhere from high end to designer dresses to the juniors. So I said to Aaron, because it's like, there's no way their customer who's like 35 to 55, you can bring in that much, but to stay current, I said, try out the little puffer coats, if we're going to show it on a rail, do a basic, a t-shirt that has that pop of color, and then a quilted jacket. And at least so you have it, so you have that representation, but it's not a whole rail of animal prints. Like, because I literally I went there and I was. Would you remember like last year, like everyone had cane furniture, cane was everywhere.
Yeah.
And so Diane and I just could not I loved it, but we just couldn't get on board with it. I think we bought one thing and I think it may have sold. I don't know, but we just did not get on that trend. But, I was just in Europe. It's still everywhere.
Yeah.
I still see it everywhere.
I think it's just really, again, like knowing who your customer is and why they're coming to you. And I don't really see caning would be why you're going to Porch. Like, it's just, so many beautiful found objects and it's like, it has more weight. Caning always feels very light and
like fragile. That's why I don't have it. I'm like, oh no, I'm feeling that's going to break,
So tell me a little bit about it, because you have this fabulous life off work, which I loved getting a chance to get to know you. And I love now following you on Instagram, like seeing your beautiful life. Tell us a little bit about your life outside of work.
Well, I'm married to an amazing man who owns a travel agency. And before we met, I traveled, but not to this level. And I think that's one of the things that's kind of helped me in my decisions to you don't need to do everything. Just come enjoy your life a little bit. Because when we met, I remember he wanted to go away for a few weeks. And I just no, can't do that. Because I think it was very American, like take a week off, we got to get back to work. Yep. That was my whole psyche. But Oliver's like, there's a whole world out there to see.
Oliver's
my husband, yes. So he has kind of encouraged me to go and see the world with them. And so I've been very lucky that I have these opportunities to travel and see things. I remember we went to Africa on our honeymoon, and I thought in my lifetime I'd never go to Africa. It wasn't on my radar. And so when it happened, it was just such a huge part. I'm like going, oh my God, we're going to Africa, you know?
Wow.
And so he's very adventurous, where I'm a little reserved. Like, I'm like, oh, but I become more adventurous being with him. So, and then we have a little house in Portugal, which we love.
That pool. Oh my God, that fucking pool. Like that. I was looking at that picture with the floaty in it, and I was just like staring at that. Like, I honestly, like, if I had a house in another country and that was what I looked out at, I would have to say, like, it would be a very challenging decision to come home.
It always is. It always, because we have to unpack everything, put the chairs out. So it's like a day to prep, get everything ready, and then a day to put it back. So you kind of, you lose 2 days just working. Yeah. So we like to go back more frequently, but his business is here, I'm working here. So, but we have it there, and it's just one day we'll retire there. That's all
COVID there.
So, it's all COVID there, most of it. Yeah, we decided just to get out of here, and we had a friend that had a little place that we rented on the beach for a few weeks, and we were in Lisbon for a few weeks, and Oliver's aunt lives in the Algarve, and we go see her quite frequently, and house hunting, and found a lot of awful things, but then we found this little treasure, and we just I remember getting in the car, we didn't say anything to each other. It was like, oh my God, that house is so amazing. And now when it became our house, I'm like, this is our house. Oh my gosh. I have citrus trees. It's like, I have all these things that I've always wanted, and now I have them. So I just want to pinch myself sometimes, but I know that I'm fortunate. I know that I have an amazing husband who made this happen. So I don't take any of this for granted. I don't take any for granted.
So incredible. I love that. I love the appreciation for it. There's no oh yeah, we've got a second home here. It's like there's a true appreciation and a sense of gratitude of what you have, which I think is so beautiful.
Well, I think too, we've had so many friends come visit us, and it's just been nice to share that with them and share Portugal with them. So we've had a lot of people come.
My invitation.
Pardon?
My invitation.
Oh, yours is next for next year. Next summer, you're coming.
Tell me a little bit about what this coming holiday, because your episode is going to be, I think I have it for, I'm checking my notes as I'm doing this on camera. Your episode is going to be 12/27. So okay. We're going to hear after this fact, but tell everyone a little bit about what your holiday schedule looks like for setups and life.
Well, Christmas is kind of a crazy time for us because we also do private homes. So on top of all of our clients' homes, everyone wanting their trees and garlands, that's a job by itself. We're going to have a planning meeting next week to kind of talk about this year's look, this year's vibe. I haven't even come up with that yet. I'm trying to think about it because last year I knew exactly what I wanted to do. So how do you top what you did last year? Because last year was pretty good, So I'm like, so I'm kind of in the planning process. Holiday will probably go up. I would say the first week of November. It just seems it's getting. Diane doesn't like to do it too close to December because she wants to have a bit of a break. Yeah. I feel like it's getting closer and closer, it's longer and longer. These holiday setups, they're sooner and sooner.
Well, it's for the smaller gift stores that sell gift stuff versus Diana's store where it's there's some gift, but it's by far and large furniture and whatnot. But
yeah, exactly.
Stores that sell the smaller stuff, they're up against that home goods thing and that Hobby Lobby thing where they bring it in. Hobby Lobby is Christmas now. This interview is being held in late August. Hobby Lobby already has Christmas. They will have it knocked down to 50%, probably by the beginning of September or the beginning of October. It will be so retailers are up against the Hobby Lobby's already gone and what do I buy that you can't go get there? So their Christmases, just to get the sell through, are happening earlier and earlier.
It's just it's so challenging to see that too. Because I was even a little I don't know. I just like just kind of rubs me the wrong way to see holidays so soon, even though I'm in the business.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh, no, we're not ready for that. Because you think about like after Christmas is over, we go right to market and start buying for the following year. Like we just finished Christmas, but we're January. We're shopping for Christmas.
I can't. I refuse to buy Christmas in January. I just can't. I understand if you want it, you really need to do it. Then it's like I don't want it that bad. But one thing I say, it's kind of nice to have it over to like know that all this is coming in, done. So like I said, we're going to start planning next week, and then just look at how in depth we want to go. We're all about natural things. We like to use real garlands, real trees, real wreaths. That is like anything fake. I'm the same way. So that's a challenge by itself too, because if you set up live green, they die sooner, especially if you have warm weather. Not like on the East Coast. Not in Vermont. Connecticut where it's cold. So so that's kind of like where we are right now. We're starting to go on to planning. I need to come up with some ideas, and I'll keep you posted. You had mentioned not putting it up too early. I think I mentioned to you Bristol Farms is my biggest client, and the client. Well, it's the second client that I do actual Christmas decor, because I used to do. That's when I first started in merchandising. I was like, that's all I did was Christmas decor for people. Like they'd bring it in, or I'd buy it and bring it in, and we'd do it. And it was like, I love Christmas. I'm born 4 days after, but it's like, I don't want to decorate like that. So Bristol Farms is like the only one we do it for like that. And 1 year, the marketing guy is not there anymore. It's like, we want it. No one included me on the memo, but I'm on the phone. Dave and I are on the phone because Dave works with me, and we're on the phone with him. And he's like, okay, just want to make sure we're locked and loaded for 11/1. I go, yep, we're starting 11/2. And he goes, no. We have to be done by 11/1. I'm like, excuse me? We've always started the first weekend of, when did this change? He goes, oh, did we not tell you about them all? No. And
my God.
We were supposed to be on our anniversary trip to Nicaragua. So we had to cancel our trip, and we had all 14 locations were decorated for Christmas by, I think it was October 28th. They still had Halloween balloons and candy and all the gifts in the front.
Oh.
Like, you looked past it and it was like, I mean, Bristol does not do a mild Christmas. There's lit garland around the entire exterior of the store. Every single end cap has fucking lit garland. Like every single register has lit, like, and then
you're like,
it's everywhere. And then Halloween is still, and it's like, the next year he was gone and the new marketing team came in. I'm like, so I don't know, do you want to do it this early? And they're like, we have no idea why he decided to do it this early. I'm like, thank God. I said, because, it was really weird, like leaving the store and you're looking at Halloween and then look further past it and it's like Christmas.
Did their numbers reflect anything different because it was set up sooner?
They did do, I think they did do bigger numbers, and I think the reason for it was they were really pushing, because it was post-COVID, and it was after coming out of, because remember, grocery stores were open the entire time. So it was coming out of everybody ordering and them selling out of their Christmas pre-made stuff. So a big production of like hams and turkeys and smoked this and all the sides, like you can order everything. So they had sold so much and sold out so fast that I think that year was like, we're going to start advertising the order your meals in October to get everybody's mind on it. And I think that the philosophy with him was, that way, then they'll come in and you get that, because you get that instant feeling, even if there's Christmas music not playing, it's like, I mean, it is lit up. I mean, there's no doubting that it is Christmas time when you walk in there. I think it was just to get everybody's head starting to think about pre-ordering your holiday clothes soon. But thankfully, we're not setting it up before Halloween, because that was just like, some stores I will set up a little bit here and there, but certainly not like full on, let's pull everything out and put it all up.
Oh my gosh.
It was.
How many years have you been with them?
I've been with Bristol now, I think it's 12 years. It started, It was funny. I was brought in to do like 1 or 2 stores, and the then marketing person was like, I want to do like deers and Santa. And so she ordered the stuff and we put it in. And then they brought in Danny, who was amazing. Danny has levels of taste of anthropology. And he's like, we're not putting up Santa. We're not putting up snow. Like it is literally, the food is the star of the show. So that's what so it became my job to go back and figure out what kind of decor are we going to do that is not take away from the food. And it's not about Santa and deers and all that. So it's just lit garland with simple wooden spoons tied with burgundy burlap. And it's very clean, and it really is all about the food. But it was funny, those first couple of years, I mean, I think we had gotten up to 6 stores we were doing when Danny came in, and it was like, yeah, came into one of the stores and you can just, when someone looks at something and you can see the look of disdain and they don't, and you're like, is everything okay? He's like, you're not doing, and I'm like, okay. So we're putting them away, and the stores were like, I mean, mind you, this is the crazy part, is that I didn't know this, because I mean, the Manhattan Beach store is my local store, but I didn't know this, that we were doing one of the stores, and one of the little old ladies who was the gift manager, and she was still there. She was, swear to God, 80. So she'd been there for 30 years. She's like, I don't know why they're having you do it, because we all used to do our own displays. The meat guys had a Mardi Gras theme. I had Frozen. The bakery had a...
You're like, there's a reason why they brought me in.
Every single different department in the store had a different theme, and it was all AKA Party City. So you can imagine, it's dying. I'm like,
and you're like, no.
Well, it's all going to look the same now. And even every single store is going to look the same when you go into any of the stores. Like, the idea of Frozen, Mardi Gras, and like all these other...
I can't.
Oh my God. So that's where I'm going to end my story. But I'm going to have 2 last questions for you, and then I'm going to let you go because it's Friday and I know you've got your husband there and he probably has amazing plans for the weekend. One is you're creative. I would love to hear where you find your inspiration.
Really through travel. I mean, travel has really kind of changed my whole palette, my visual palette. Because you see how the world. Remember back in anthropology, they give you like your packet, and you're like, we're inspired by this, we're inspired by this. Well, I've never been to Morocco. I've never been here. I've never been there. But you try to create these environments, based off of doing your homework and going through magazines. Back then, it magazines, and
I still do that.
I do too. And so I think travel kind of keeps me inspired, and I always apply what I've seen, or I've seen, I'll see some merchandising in another country, and I'm like, that's cool. I think it's trying that at the porch. Why would I try that at my home? So I'm just really inspired by that. And I think also just, I love just a good movie that, as an old actor and set person and the stylist, I'm not just watching the acting. I'm looking at the whole kit and caboodle. I'm looking at the chair. I'm looking at the wallpaper. I'm looking at how the food is placed. So it's just life. And I try to, every movie Howard's in, it's an old British, it's a period piece. And I love this movie. You should check it out. It takes place in, I think, the turn of the century.
What's it called again?
Howard's Inn. Howard's Inn.
Inn, or?
No, E-N-D. Inn, yeah. So it's just, visually, it's just, there's a scene where Vanessa Redgrave is walking through the field, and just her petticoat is dragging through the brush, and then you see all the little flowers. Things like that inspire me. It's just that movement and the texture and the color and the nature, that it gets me going. And it's so silly. It's so silly. And I have this saying too. I always say, I did to my friend the other day, I ran into her at the grocery store, and I'd buy these flowers. I have flowers in my house all the time. Yeah. And she's like, what are you doing? I said, oh, I just need to fresh the house. We've been gone. And she's like, oh, wow. I was like, yeah. I said, I have a philosophy. You should always live your life as if you lived in a magazine.
I love that.
Because I remember when I worked for Anthro, like I'd eat my lunch really fast. And then I rush over to Barnes & Noble and I grab a stack of magazines. I grabbed 30 minutes and that was my lunch break. That was my food. That fed my soul.
Yeah.
I just want to know other people live. I'm just like, I love furniture. I love good food. I love beautiful textiles.
What are some of your favorite magazines?
Well, I was obsessed with UK Elle Decor for the longest time. I still love Architectural Digest. Remember, I love Dwell, but remember Domino?
Mm-hmm. Oh, I love.
Oh, I was obsessed when it would come out. I would remember rushing to the magazine shop to get my new Domino. I still have a bunch. I saved them.
Yeah, I saved a lot of them, and then when I got divorced, like I had magazines, like almost all the Martha Stewarts, almost all, because I food magazines are always really inspirational to me. Almost all the Bon Appetits, Food and Wine, and Domino's. And when I got divorced, I left everything except for my clothes, and I was like, I am not going back to get those. Like it would have been my entire car.
Wow.
Sorry, ex-husband, that you had to throw it all away, but. But I mean, now I look at it and it was like, so pissed I did that because just the inspiration from Domino is so damn good.
Yeah. You know, I still to this day, I have my very first Elle Decor magazine that I ever, and guess where I got it? I was in the gym working out in Montana. I was going to, where I went to school, and people just bring in magazines and leave the rest you look at, and it was there for a couple of weeks, and I'm like, I'm going to take this home with me. And to this day, I still have that same Elle Decor from 1993.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love that. Like, I mean, it's such a great, I love hearing other people that go to magazines for inspiration because if you look, because I think a lot of people just look at them for face value and they just page through them. But if you really look at it and you look at the storytelling and you look at the textures and the layering, I mean, that's why I love food magazines because the flat lays for food magazines are so good.
Well, it's an art form. People don't realize if you look at it as an art form, there's someone who created that moment, So that's how I look at it in art. I mean, I'm sitting here about my new British Vogue. I mean, I look at everything. I don't just like, I'm sitting to look at home interiors. I look at food. I look at fashion because to me, it's all the same.
Yep.
I get the same vibe from it. I'm like, be a beautiful dinner, a beautiful dress, a beautiful suit, a beautiful chair. I love beauty.
I love it. Your last question is, where do you see yourself in 10 years?
Oh, gosh. I see myself in Portugal. And just still doing interiors. I think that's kind of I have a bunch of friends there now, and they're saying, you should apply what you do here with expat.
Yeah.
So that's something I'm kind of looking at maybe in the next 3 or 4 years, maybe that's a direction I want to go in, because I know a lot of people there who need help. And they're like, if you were here, we'd hire you. But I'm not. So that's kind of where I'm at. So in 10 years, hopefully I'll be doing more interiors. But, and we've joked about maybe having a retail space as, a small one. We kind of joked about it, my husband and I, but just something small. Maybe that would be the front of my store, but really offer an interior design service.
Yeah. I love that. I talk about wanting to store again. I can't believe I even say that. It's out of my mouth, but I really do, especially like a home store, tabletop, cookbooks, food, like furniture. It's so yummy. That's where art is.
I think too with us, because what we do, I don't find it to be work.
Yeah.
Because I love it so much. I'm like, I got to clock in and I got to go to work. It's not like that for me. I can't wait to get to I worked this week and I remember leaving a table of stuff because I knew it was coming in the next day to create like magic. And I was so excited.
Yeah.
And if people want to talk to me, I'm like, I need to finish this. I got to finish this.
I just came back from Morgan Hill, my store that I go to 4 times a year. And it's like, She closes the store for 2 days, and I have 2 days to break it all down and reinvent, insert the new, reinvent everything, move it, shift it with not a worry about people coming and going and worrying about like getting in people's way. It's like, it's like, I literally am so excited in the morning to get there. And it's like, play my music and just just go into your own little world. And like, that creativity, it's like, that is like, to me, the best day ever.
Yeah. I love that. You and I are the same person.
I'm telling you, this is why I wanted you. Thank you so much
Thank you for having me. This is awesome.
I adore. Tell everyone where they can find you.
They can find me on Instagram at rcarter67. I've not had my website for my business not up yet. It's a work in process, so that will be coming out very soon.
You'll have your Instagram.
Yeah, so that's pretty much it as of now. I'm just still trying to work on this new chapter in my life. It's coming at me really fast. So like, oh, okay, here we go.
I'm excited to see it all happen. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.